What's up, Kansas City, Serenity, and today we have the president of the Women's Foundation. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Wendy Doyle, and as Serenity said, I'm the CEO of the Women's Foundation.
Now, I know you've been on our network before. In 2014, you actually had just started there about 10 months in. So fast forward a few years later. So how has it been working there now for a couple of years as opposed to you were just 10 months in then?
It is great. We have been making great progress. Since I've been there, we have commissioned 8 research studies on the issues impacting women and their families in Missouri and Kansas. And then using that research to then work on developing a public policy agenda in Missouri and in Kansas.
Okay. I know you had a couple. I think it was like about a year ago. The women in the equal pay. You guys were involved in that for Missouri.
Yes. So about this time last year, Missouri Governor Nixon joined us at our annual luncheon, and he signed an executive order, it was 15-09, and the executive order called for developing the best practice guidelines for pay equity in Missouri. And then he wanted the executive order also called for the best practice guidelines to be implemented on the state of Missouri workforce, which represents 56,000 people and half representing women. So the potential of about 28,000 women could be impacted based on the equal pay executive order.
That's great. Okay, so the national election.
Yes.
As we know, we just had a national election on November the 8th, and we had our first female presidential candidate who made it past, primaries, and she lost, as we know, and because we now have President-elect Trump. So, what is your take, being the CEO of the Women's Foundation, as far as women and the glass ceiling? Some people will say it's a myth, So let's just discuss that, and basically as it pertains to the election.
Absolutely. So at the Women's Foundation, one of the issues that we looked at, and we did a research study on it, was looking at the barriers for women to become civically engaged. Mm-hmm. And that's more of a kind of a grassroots take a look. And the number one reason women aren't civically engaged is women want to be asked to serve. Okay. So women tend to hold back, have a confidence. There's some confidence challenges, I think, at times. We want to make sure we meet all the criteria and the qualifications before we raise our hand and say, yes, we want to serve. Mm-hmm. So this research study showed that. And then the secondly is women don't think about becoming civically engaged. They think about a nonprofit, their house of worship, or their children's school, mm-hmm. to volunteer, and not think about, I can give my time civically. So we implemented a program called the Appointments Project, which is working to get women appointed to boards and commissions. And at the city level, but also at the state level too. We want women represent 51% of the population in Missouri and in Kansas in the country, and we want to see representation, equity there. To get to your question about the election, it's a long way to get there. We see that we need more women raising their hand and wanting to run for office, and we need women to be supportive of one another. And we had a woman candidate, and where were the women supporting her? Because obviously, with 51% of the population, that did not happen. So, as women, we need to be supportive, whether in a corporate setting or civic setting, or when women do step forward and want to run for office, we need to be supportive.
That's true. I wrote an article for a newsletter not that long ago, and it was talking about women in leadership, and kind of talked about, the support of other women and how that could be detrimental to the person, like, if you're not being supported by your peers, it's
Exactly.
definitely disheartening.
Exactly. And so we're creating our own challenges for ourselves as women. And we need to take that barrier down and be supportive. And, as a woman political candidate, Hillary running for office, the extreme about how she looked versus what she said. And that deters, when women see that as an example, that deters other women from wanting to run for office too, because it is so challenging and competitive and judgmental. And again, the more we can do and be supportive of one another, the more success we're going to have.
That is true. So as far as where do we go from here? As women, it's kind of like that's that question that I personally have, and a lot of women who are striving to either be in leadership or are already in leadership. If Hillary would have made it, it would have. It's kind of symbolic as far as it would have opened doors for other women, but at the same time now it didn't happen. So it's like, where do we go from here?
Right. Where do we go from here? I think several things that we can do. Again, we can encourage, as we just talked about, women want to be asked to serve. We can ask good women that we know, hey, would you be interested in running for office? And we can be that cheerleader or champion and encourage them to do so. So that's something that we can do, whether it be, at a grassroots level or whether it be a statewide running for office. In Missouri and in Kansas, the General Assembly represents 25% of women. And once the August primary happened, Missouri fell backwards to 23% representative of women. So we're not moving forward, moving backwards. So we need to be encouraging and asking women to serve. I think secondly, we also need to encourage young women, girls, start early and encourage them the role they can play civically and what they can do, whether it be to vote or to think about running for office. And there are lots of leadership programs. Women's Foundation, we have a girls leadership program too, but lots of leadership programs to teach young girls about how to run for student council and to get that experience at a young age can help in the adult phase to think about running for office.
So as far as the makeup of the Women's Foundation, how diverse is it?
I would say we have a long way to go to be representative of all of the communities in Kansas City and in our states. But we're working really hard at that because we want to be an organization that's inclusive and we welcome everyone. And it's interesting. We have 36 appointees at this point in time that we've appointed in the last 2 years to boards and commissions. And most of those women are women of color, represent diversity. So that's something that we're really proud of. And so we encourage, that's one way that we can absolutely be supportive and work together is through our appointments project.
Okay. I was just wondering, as I know, there sometimes is not that reach to, especially, a lot of women in the African American community aren't necessarily involved in those type of organizations. So it's just kind of like, is that information being sent out? Like, are they aware that are you guys open to anybody?
Absolutely, we're open. And, an example, we had a partnership to do some training for encouraging women to become civically engaged in appointments project training with a Greater Kansas City Links chapter.
Okay.
And so, well attended, great response, and we've done it for the last 2 years. And they have been a great supporter of our appointments project too. So we have a lot of work to do, but we want to be that organization where we welcome and we're inclusive. for everyone.
So what is next for the Women's Foundation?
So what's next for us is a couple interesting things. We just have completed a really unique research study on what are the barriers for women to become entrepreneurs in Missouri.
Oh, okay.
And we just released that study. University of Missouri Institute of Public Policy conducted the research study. We just released it in the last couple of weeks. And so what that looks like is we're developing a public policy agenda on what small things that we can do and champion for a policy agenda in Missouri so we can get more women to be entrepreneurs and be earners to bring back dollars and cents to the family. So we're really excited about that. Secondly, we released a few years ago the Status of Women in Missouri research study. And so we are updating the data sets on that so that we can start to benchmark, are we making any progress with our work? So stay tuned on that. That'll be released in January 2017. And then third is we are working on parental and caregiving leave. So we see the workplace as a place where we can also make an impact, and we would like, what we've heard from lots of women is the need to have flexibility to care for children, to care for aging family members. So we're working on a parental and caregiving leave policy agenda item for Missouri and Kansas.
You also have an event coming up soon. Why don't you tell us about that event?
Yes, we have our annual luncheon. This year it's Friday, December 2nd, and we will be hosting Secretary of State, former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright, and joining her will be legendary ABC White House correspondent Ann Compton. So I think they will have some interesting perspective and things to share about the post-election results, and couldn't be two great women in their roles to share some insights for us.
Okay. So I have a question for you that's off my list.
Yeah.
But how do you balance it all, like as far as the family and work-life balance thing? Because I know that's
a question.
That's a question that women in leadership are often asked. So I'm just wondering, how do you balance it all?
Absolutely. That's a great question. And I'm not sure that if you ask anyone that anyone has it exactly figured out. But I think, technology is our friend, but also our foe. And we can constantly be working and battling. We can work around the clock with our technology. But one of the things that I do is I'm really work hard to set the boundaries on, at a certain time of the night, we have to shut the cell phone off and stop looking at the email. So I just think maybe having a realistic set of boundary, although we're never really good at balancing it. But great question. Something we all continue to work on, including myself.
So tell people how they can get information on the Women's Foundation, if they want to get involved or anything like that.
Absolutely. So Women's Foundation's website is womens-foundation.org, and you can go and visit our website. You can see our research studies, find out about our policy agenda, more information about us. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook, LinkedIn. Social media is a great tool too. So
the pink and black is how I pay attention, I guess.
Yes, the pink and black.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Serenity.
I appreciate you.
I enjoyed our conversation.
I'm Serenity, where you speak your piece. Make sure you check out whatsupkansascity.net. Remember, when you invest in community, you're really just investing in yourself.
I'm IFBB Bikini Pro Cat Williams, and when I'm not working out in the gym, I'm searching the web on Cascade Media and What's Up Kansas City. So make sure you check them out.